Have you ever stopped to wonder what actually makes you, you? Well, today we're diving into the incredible science of how our experiences, everything from our biggest wins to our tiny daily habits, are literally, physically sculpting our brains right this very second. So, let's get right to it. It's the age-old debate, right? Nature versus nurture. Are we just acting out some script that was written in our genes the day we were born? Or is life more of a blank page that we get to fill in ourselves? Honestly, that's the central question we're going to explore.
For the longest time, science kind of treated this as a fight to the death. You were either on team nature or team nurture. But what we know now is so much more fascinating. It's not a battle at all. Turns out it's more like a lifelong partnership.
Here's a great way to think about it. Your genes, your DNA, they give you the starting blueprint. They lay out the basic floor plan. Maybe they give you a knack for music, or maybe they make you a little more cautious by nature. But it's your experiences, your life, your environment, the people you're around, that come in like a master sculptor and shape that raw material into the unique person you become. I love this quote because it just nails it. Your DNA might load the gun, giving you certain potentials, but it's what happens in your life that actually pulls the trigger. Things like stress, love and care, even the food you eat, they can actually cause chemical changes that tell your genes when to fire and when to stay quiet. Yeah, that whole idea that your brain is set in stone after you grow up, totally wrong. We now know it's this incredibly dynamic, living thing that's constantly rewiring and remodeling itself based on everything we do, think, and feel. So how on earth does that actually happen? Well, this constant remodeling is possible because of two amazing secret powers our brains have: neuroplasticity and epigenetics. These are the actual biological tools that let our experiences become a physical part of us. So first up is neuroplasticity. You can think of this as the how. Every single time you learn something new, like a new word or a new dance move, your brain cells, your neurons, are physically building new pathways or making old ones stronger. It's like your brain is its own construction crew, constantly renovating the wiring based on what you're up to that day. And then you've got epigenetics, which is honestly mind-blowing. Your experiences can leave these little chemical marks or tags right on top of your DNA. Now, they don't change your actual genetic code, but they act like dimmer switches, turning some genes up and others down. They can even switch them on or off completely. It means your lifestyle is literally changing how your genetic story gets told. And you might think, okay, so bigger brains must be better at this, right? Well, check this out. An elephant has this massive brain with about 257 billion neurons. But a tiny little sea slug with only 20,000 neurons can also learn and form memories. So, the real takeaway here isn't about size or power. It's about the fundamental ability of those cells to adapt, and that power exists in all kinds of life. Now, this power of experience, it's a real double-edged sword. It can build us up in amazing ways, but it can also hold us back. So let's look at two completely different stories that really show just how deeply our world can remake our brains. This is the heartbreaking true story of a girl named Oksana Malaya. When she was just 3, she was neglected by her parents and ended up living in a dog kennel. For 5 years, dogs were her only family. So when authorities finally found her at age 8, she acted more like a dog than a person. She barked, she ran on all fours. Her brain, starving for input, had simply adapted to the only world it had ever known. Oksana's story is what you might call a tragic natural experiment. It shows us, in the clearest way possible, that without the nurture of human language and social connection, a child's brain will absolutely adapt to survive, but those critical windows for developing complex skills can be missed, and sometimes that damage is permanent. Okay, but let's flip to the other side of that sword, the hopeful side. This is where we see our own power to make change. So in one study, scientists took a group of people and taught them mindfulness meditation for just 4 weeks. And look at this. Not only did they say they felt less pain than the group that didn't meditate, but brain scans actually confirmed it. Their training had literally rewired the parts of the brain that process pain. It wasn't just in their head. It was physically in their neurons. So all of this leads to a pretty huge question, right? If our brains really are this changeable, how can we be more deliberate about it? How do we become the actual authors of our own change and apply all this to our own lives?
Well, it really all begins with what you pay attention to. See, when you learn something new, it first lands in your brain's short-term memory, which is kind of like a temporary scratch pad. But if you want to make it stick, to really lock it into long-term memory, you have to consciously engage with it. You have to focus on it, think about it, rehearse it. When you do that, you're basically sending a memo to your brain that says, hey, this is important, save this. And that is how you build a new skill or lock in new knowledge.
And this leads to some incredibly practical stuff. Things you can actually do, starting today, to take control. Things like staying physically active to keep your mind sharp, training your focus through stuff like mindfulness. You can even reframe the stories you tell yourself. Therapies like CBT are proven to literally rewire negative thought patterns. And just staying social, staying curious, and never, ever stopping learning. All of this keeps your brain flexible and strong.
And get this, the story doesn't even stop with you. New research is showing that our experiences might actually echo into the next generation. A famous study on the children of Holocaust survivors found that they had these epigenetic marks on a key stress gene, which made them more vulnerable to anxiety. It suggests our experiences can become part of our family's biological story. So what this all really boils down to is this. You are not a prisoner of your DNA. Not at all. Your brain is alive, it's responsive, and it's waiting to be shaped by you. The science here is just an incredible message of hope and personal power. Every choice you make, every new thing you try, every thought you entertain, it's another sentence in the story of you. So the only question left is, what are you going to write today? Thanks so much for joining us.